We'll share straight away. Bang, there we go. And we're up. Okay. Dr. Martin Seif, Dr. Sally Winston. And this is a person who they helped recover. Okay. So they're going to go through the dialogue. And it's really, oh my God, I have two of the books over there. It's really fantastic work. So we listen in, and obviously some of it will be, some of it won't be for you, some of it will. Take what is for you. I want to find out where I want to start. One thing is, guys, when they talk about OCD, doesn't mean you have it. But I'm talking about everyone that has anxiety has compulsions. Okay, compulsions are a big part of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders. Okay, and it's very, you think it's about washing your hands of that. It's not. It's I have anxiety. Like my big compulsion was I feel anxious. I want this feeling to leave me. What do I do? Now I found a way that if I leave my house and I go across to the fire brigade station, my anxiety leaves me. So if I'm looking for a way out of this suffering, and now I've just found it, when Glenn has a panic attack, and I've tried everything to calm me down, but what I now found was when I go across to this fire brigade station, I feel calm. Why? Because mine was based around death. I'm going to die because of this. I'm going to have a heart attack. So being close to medical help makes sense. So I would have the anxiety attack and then I'd engage in these compulsions. I'd have to make sure that I sleep downstairs. I went, this is what the compulsions made me do. I didn't sleep upstairs anymore, but that was more because my brothers were in college and one was going to school, and I was waking them up at mad hours, like so, walking the floors with panic attack. So I moved downstairs the last 3 years of my disorder. I would sleep in my clothes because it's a quick escape. I'd have my bike planned and ready to move straight away. Okay, I would, yes, I would have my track pants on, my socks on, and the bed downstairs on the couch, everything lined up for this big getaway. I'd have to panic attack and I wouldn't even wait to calm down. I'd go straight across. So I feel the anxiety, immediately give in to the compulsion. I don't give it any chance to say, hold on a minute, Glenn. Let's try rationalize this. And by rationalize it, it ain't gonna happen, but let's try diffuse. Because what you're doing, Glenn, is you are reinforcing this intrusive thought. You're reinforcing this and giving it more power and making your life more miserable by engaging in that and then running across to the fucking fire brigade station. I did that 5 a.m., 2 p.m. in the day. So that's what it is. People think OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. What I'm talking about, in a lot of anxiety disorders, there's such a compulsive nature to it. Okay? Doesn't mean you have to be diagnosed with OCD, but this type of stuff helps so much to speak about it because compulsions are a big part of this. Oh, I have to have my mom here with me. I can't go without my mom. Why? What would happen if you without your mom? I'd be too anxious. I'd have that breakdown in the car. Okay, have you ever tried going 20 days in a row without her? No. Oh, so how do you know? I don't know. I just think. Yeah, you think. Okay. So it's about testing that. And it's pretty much ERP, exposure and response prevention. Okay, ERP is a form of therapy. Quite actually really, really good. Okay, exposure. Expose yourself. You change your response to prevent the old outcome. That's doing you damage. Okay.
No, Publix that have this.
I don't know about anyone else, but I can't hear that now. I could before, but it might just be me.
Yeah, it's all cutting
I
out a lot, like not enough bandwidth.
probably my internet guys. Thanks for letting me know, Ellie.
That's okay.
Let me try.
Now you got.
Let me know, okay? Okay. Okay, guys. 1 second. Come on. What the hell am I doing?
We start with you, Dr. Winston. What else do you want? That's what you, Dr. Seif. Um,
Still not clicking, guys, no?
I can hear it, but it's choppy.
Choppy. It might be my internet. That's all I need.
Wonder if everybody stops their video, like stops showing their face, if that'll give you more bandwidth.
Yeah, guys, if you all go on mute. This is recorded, so I need it to be almost perfect, okay? So let you guys just keep let me know. Are we in yet? No?
It looked like their mouse were talking faster, but I couldn't hear anything that time.
How do you pronounce
Are we in yet, guys? No?
No, I couldn't hear anything.
Sorry, guys, give me a couple of seconds. My apologies.
any successful treatment methods?
Conversations on Conversations, where each week we explore a topic to help us have more powerful conversations with ourselves and others. I'm your host, Sarah Noel Wilson, and joining me today are two people who don't know yet how they've limited to thinking about people who just wanted things to be very particular, or that the compulsions were about, not wanting to step on cracks or wanting to, and not realizing the depth of how it can show up, the depth of how compulsions can be very internal. And once my therapist and I kind of made this aha of, oh, this is more than just panic disorder. There's something else going on here. And the more I started to learn about it, it really opened my eyes to not only understanding myself better, but also just being more tuned into the amount of suffering that people with OCD experience, because it's not just that. I think a lot of people, they go, oh, I like to be clean, I have OCD. I'm like, no, you don't. Do you have a lot of distress? Do you have intrusive thoughts? Do you? So why don't you start us off, Dr. Winston?
Well, first of all, kudos to your therapist, because an awful lot of therapists would not have picked that up. It isn't just the general public that have misconceptions about OCD. It's also...
For those that join late, guys, Dr. Sally Winston and Dr. Martin Seif are the best in the business when it comes to intrusive thoughts, compulsions. You will not get two better people than this speaking about it. So take their words as gospel. Okay, it's the best information you'll ever receive. They have written the best books and they do the best work out there. Really, there shouldn't really be anyone else you really listen to when it comes to breaking these compulsive disorders and understanding the brain when it comes to intrusive thoughts. These two are unbelievable.
General therapists.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why we started writing, is that we wanted to make a dent in the world. And also why we didn't use the term OCD in the titles of our books, because we thought that, people would pick them up who didn't know they had OCD and then learn through reading that they in fact do. And for a long time, people did think.
Again, guys, I'll stop on the important things, and it shows that they really understand the mind of someone who suffers. Okay, how they didn't put the title of OCD on their books in fear that someone will read it and they'll blow it out of proportion, as the irrational brain will when they're struggling and sensitized. So that's another great thing where you'll only understand that. Why does Dr. Martin Seif, he's so good? Why? Because he had it. There's always a theme to put people in this type of scheme are the best at what they do is because they've lived it. And Martin had that. Okay.
OCD was repetitive thoughts. Those were the obsessions, and compulsions were defined as behavioral things that you do, like checking and washing and avoiding contamination and things like that. And there was also this idea of a personality trait of being very neat and organized and so on. And I think what you're saying is so important, because first of all, compulsions are not only behavioral, they're also mental and covert, and things that are not obvious either to the person who's having them or to people around them. And so it's much more subtle.
I have to It's interesting to hear your intentionality behind the title, because I didn't come to your work by looking for OCD. I came to your work because I started to experience incredibly intrusive thoughts in a way I never had before.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually what brought me. And it was your work that made me realize, I think this is actually what's going on.
People get frightened because they think that when they have unwanted intrusive thoughts, they think that they're somehow either fighting impulses, or they're fighting an intentionality in some way. And so there's no real recognition that this is an anxiety disorder or a form of OCD in some way. So that's another reason why we really didn't use the term obsessive OCD in the book. Another thing I just want to say is that therapists still do not, there are many therapists who still do not understand obsessive compulsive disorder. And Sally and I think we sort of stopped when COVID came, but we gave really well-received lectures at large things, essentially to therapists, which were entitled Busting the Myths. Everything you learned about obsessive compulsive disorder in graduate school is probably wrong. And people were fascinated by that and interested in some way, but still there are a lot of people who have difficulty with that. And I think that's one of the reasons that we appreciate you getting the word out to people, and why we enjoy the fact that people are willing to spread the word around our books.
What do you feel like, why does the misunderstanding or myths about it, do you feel like it's so pervasive? Because that was something that even my therapist and I talked about. I think she had a moment of, I miss this.
No, guys, as I said, I will be stopping sometimes. When it comes to, like, the main theme of this will be OCD and stuff like that, but none of you guys, the diagnosis of OCD, like, there's a vast gap between that and all of you guys. But everyone that's diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, agoraphobia, panic attacks, there was always an high element of compulsiveness. Okay, there's always a high element of obsessiveness. What do you think of the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep? Anxiety. What's this thought? What's this feeling? Obsessed about it. Look at all the books you guys have. God love your search history over the last couple of years. Am I dying? Am I having a heart attack? Am I gone? Can you die from this? Can you have a mental breakdown? Do I have bipolar disorder? Obsession. So it's a natural form. It comes with anxiety disorder. Doesn't mean you have OCD. Okay? It's just a natural thing that comes with, hey, I feel there's something wrong with me. I need to fix it because I've gone to the general therapist. I've gone to the cognitive behavioral therapist. I've gone on antidepressant medication and none of it has worked. So now I have to do my own research. And that's why every one of you, you become the expert, but you become the expert theoretically, not behaviorally. And that's your job now, is to become the expert through your behaviors. But in order to become an expert through your behaviors, you have to get re-educated. And this is really gold standard stuff. Gold standard. Okay? We listen in. So when you hear the word OCD, don't be thinking, oh, no. We're talking about the obsessiveness and the compulsions and anxiety disorders. What are they? Why it's okay? How to deal with them? And then some of the thoughts that just make you realize, thank God I'm not the only one. So it's just very reassuring.
I had little signs of it, but then it was like, honestly, it wasn't until I started to connect the dots that she started to connect the dots differently. And then it was like, oh, shoot, like I totally missed this. What is it about OCD in particular that is so misunderstood compared to, say, like anxiety, or you have a panic attack, or depression? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on why that's so pervasively misunderstood.
Well, some of it is just that it's the understanding of OCD, the way we understand it now, is just in the last maybe 30 years. before that, really the understanding panic disorder didn't even show up in the manual, the DSM, until 1980. And obsessive compulsive disorder was understood through psychodynamic lens or a Freudian or a different way of looking at it, as if thoughts that one might have all are meaningful and worthwhile and should be explored and are insights into your deep unconscious, and that
It's one of the big things. Oh, I'm having this horrible thought. This must mean something. When Glenn had his horrible thought of, oh my God, what have I done to myself? Well, I'm having that thought. Something must be wrong with me. After 10 years of this disorder, because I never had that thought before, but when I started to have the thought of, what if I jumped in front of that car? What if I done some harm to myself? What if, like, I'd never do that? But why am I having that thought? That must mean something. No, doesn't mean anything. Tell you what it means. You're stressed the fuck out. That's what. And you've tried so hard for so many years to get rid of this, and you're burnt out, and your nervous system's burnt out, and you feel lonely, and all your emotions are negative, and so much has happened in your life. And that's led you to this big lump of stress that causes these intrusive thoughts. Okay? That's what happened.
That, the notion that we all have junk in our minds that's not worth paying attention to was not really, available for the training of most people who are therapists. And we're gradually making inroads into the therapy community. But there are many people who train according to some school or sort of way of understanding the mind or a particular theoretical orientation or a bunch of technical interventions, and they just don't run across the need to understand OCD, even though it's actually far more prevalent than we thought.
Yeah.
Well, and let me add to that to some extent. There is really a well-established long-term analytic conception, which goes somewhere to the sense that the wish is father to the fear. And so essentially, if a person fears something, there's an analytic assumption that there's that's some response to a wish. And I think there's some validity to that in certain cases. The fact is that there are things that need to be explored. But if we also include the fact that if we go on what Sally's saying, that the mind does create these junk thoughts, and that there's certain thoughts that we need to take seriously, and other thoughts that we need to say, no, that's just junky, let it pass by. Just like when you get a creative idea, sometimes you get a creative idea and you say, wow, that's really great. And other times you say, that sucks, leave that alone in some way. That's just the way our mind works and understanding of our mind. So the fact is that there are a lot of people, a lot of therapists still, who go along with this old general, I'm giving a very general term, analytic assumption in some way. And I don't know, I'm sure Sally has the same thing. I have people coming up to me who are in therapy, who like their therapist, who have intrusive thoughts, tell me their intrusive thoughts and say, is it all right, do you think, for me to tell my therapist that I have these intrusive thoughts in some way?
Wow.
And you say, of course. And, of course, you got to do that in some way. I'm sure you've had that experience, Sally, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, of course, all the time. And I think the main misconception that generates the shame and the misery and the secrecy around these thoughts is that everybody has passing intrusive thoughts, certainly, but certain of those thoughts, if you have a sticky mind or OCD, certain of those thoughts get stuck and repeat. And the reason that those thoughts get stuck and repeat is not random. It's the most awful thoughts that you can come up with. It's the things that are the opposite of you. It's the anathema, the, oh my God, what's that doing in my mind kinds of thoughts. And as soon as you seize on one of those passing thoughts, it's no longer random. It's because you hate it so much that it gets stuck. It gets stuck by the effort to get rid of it.
And so as a result of that, I just want to add, I'm just completing what you're saying. As a result of that, the content of unwanted intrusive thoughts is usually pretty awful, pretty terrible. So a person says, wait a second, if I'm thinking about some awful thing, if I'm thinking about hurting people or abusing people or yelling out some blasphemy while I'm in church, or if that's what I'm thinking about, and it frightens me so much, like it feels like an impulse, what sort of person am I? So there's a desire to hide it, to keep it inside yourself, because, oh my God, what's it going to find? It's sort of like, let's keep the box closed. Let's not open let's not open it up in some way. So you see the dilemma that these people are in. So the first thing you have to think of is how courageous people are to be able to talk about it. And I think a lot of this started coming out because there was the opportunity to do things online, to do things with some sort of, I have this. As a matter of fact, I have a personal website. This is sort of the background to the book that we wrote, Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts. I have a personal website, which, years ago, maybe in, 10, 12 years ago.
Just keep listening in slowly. There's so many nuggets of wisdom on this that will hit each individual. Each individual, you'll find something in it. Okay? Really, really golden nuggets of wisdom, okay? And that's like everything. It's like a certain book you read, a podcast you listen to. There's always something in it. It's not going to be the whole book you enjoy and the whole podcast you enjoy. Something in it will So this is very similar, okay? And each individual, you'll find your own kind of spark within it, or your own, oh my God, that's me. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that. Oh, that's me. Oh, yeah, I understand that. And then you're getting like literally the best experts in the world talking about it, which is the best part.
People were, websites were getting 30, 40, 50 hits a day in some way. And I had one little page associated that described very briefly, I think I called them obsessive intrusive thoughts or something like that. And, Google Analytics, all of a sudden I was getting 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000 hits a day, and so this is, I couldn't understand it. And I realized eventually that, as I tell, they were all landing on one page. Most of them were landing on one page. So either this was something that was really common out there and people were finding it, or else there were one or two people who were just spending their whole day clicking on that one thing.
Which, could be because we're looking for reassurance and we're just like, let me read it again. And is that what I really have?
But that's why we wrote the book, because that was a huge gap in general information. Is that.
And as we were writing the book, we learned more and more about it. And as we get questions from people, and for a while, actually, I had a little newsletter that I tried to go up each month, and people would read it and subscribe. And I think we had, I don't remember, maybe 5 or 6 or 7,000 people. This is in 2014, subscribing to this Intrusive Thoughts newsletter in some way. And that a lot of that information went into the book that we wrote.
Yeah, I think that was something that was so profound for me. I mean, there were so many major ahas, but I have experienced intrusive thoughts before. All humans do, and I realized that I've had times when what maybe was diagnosed with like as panic disorder, actually, when I look back, I'm like, oh no, that was actually like repetitive intrusive thinking. And I was trying to explain it to somebody. I was like, this isn't like 1 or 2 thoughts a day. When my brain is really, really sticky because I'm under stress, because I'm tired, because I'm not like practicing my ability to sit with the uncertainty and float and fly above it, it can be hundreds, thousands a day of that coming through. And imagine you're trying to exist in the world. And to your point about those subtypes, I think that again, that was another piece that was really insightful for me, because imagine that your intrusive thoughts wasn't about cleanliness, but was about pedophilia? What if your intrusive thoughts were about harming children? What if your intrusive thoughts were about sexual orientation? And how so many of those, one, would feel very scary to share out loud, and two, could be misinterpreted by somebody who isn't familiar with OCD as like, ooh, you might actually have a real problem, or you might actually really need to be rethinking, or you really need to explore this. That was so profound. And I will say that in my own journey, I can't imagine how many people are walking around not realizing that this is what they're suffering with. And not having the support and not having the space, right? Like to be able.
One of the great things about this group, it's one of the most darkest, scariest thoughts is I'm going to lose my mind and I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to develop a more severe and actual mental illness that will lead me down a road of never coming back again, never. I'm losing touch with reality. And the great thing is everyone has that thought. Everyone's had that thought for years. There's not one reported case in history of anyone losing their mind from anxiety and panic attacks. It just can't happen. And that's the thing about feeding off each other's thoughts. When I sometimes ask the question, like, who fears that? Yeah, me. It becomes, you find common ground with the people here that, oh, that's actually a normal thought. And that's what it is about. I have intrusive thoughts about getting a huge setback I will not to be able to cover. Also run away in certain places. Yep. Mark, who has shot out of a cannon for 2 months, never missed a day, has burst through everything. Mark had a off week last week, which he not missed, but just didn't make his destination because stress showed up in his life, and it wasn't that he was afraid to go into it. He was just too busy with a wife, with 3 young kids, with a business to look after, and and he was tired. And then he was asking me, oh, what do you think about missing these few days? Like I'm afraid that I'll get setback. You're not getting a setback, my friend. You're not getting a setback. So it's, again, look at you guys leaning on each other again. It's the same thoughts. And it's so comforting to know there's so many individuals here that have come and gone and come and gone. I have to do the same conversations over and over and over again. When you guys gone, new batch of people on, they'll be doing the same questions as you. It's all the same. And that's just so nice to know. You're in that. I'm not alone. Like that. I have intrusive thoughts about getting a huge setback. Even if you do get a huge setback, you'll break out of it. And Francesca, you're not even at a point now where you reach the point in your recovery where, you've made so much progress that you're able to call it a setback. You're just getting started. Don't be worried about any of that stuff yet. Okay? Sad but comforting. Exactly. Sad but comforting. If we find comfort, and that's what I used to do online. Again, I like a bloody an OG with all this stuff back then. Like there was none of this stuff. There was no true help out there. There was nothing like this. I was very alone with it. And when I found stuff online, he sleeps in his clothes waiting for an ambulance as well. Oh, thank God. It's just so comforting.
Not realizing that this is what they're suffering with. And not having the support and not having the space, right? Like to be able to speak up, and which is why I think it's so easy for it to be silent, because there's so much shame around these thoughts.
Right. And
exactly.
And what we say all the time is that OCD masquerades as issues, right? So that even if you are a mental health clinician, if you ask somebody, do you have suicidal thoughts? Somebody could could say, yes, they do. And there's two different kinds of suicidal thoughts.
Very important. This is the part that I want you to all listen to. This is the part. If I would have heard this back then, which eventually I did, I eventually stopped fearing this. When I first started having these thoughts, I was fucking terrified.
One of them is, I want to die. My life sucks. Nobody cares about me. They'll all be better off without me. Kind of suicidality. That's real suicidality. But OCD also does something else. If we remember that the opposite of you is what gets stuck. People who love life can be tortured by the thoughts that what if, against my will, I suddenly lost control and jumped off a balcony or knifed myself or hung myself because these thoughts are in my mind. That's not being suicidal. It's not being depressed. And yet, if you just answer yes to that question, you can end up hospitalized, or you can end up very scared to ever say those thoughts to anybody because of the consequences. Your family's going to get all upset about you and all these other things. So those details about the thoughts are very, very important.
Yeah.
And they can be so easily misunderstood.
Yeah.
Another way of saying that is that obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, can masquerade as many, many different factors. Sally was giving an example where it can masquerade as depression in some way. And we make a distinction between something like depression, where a person is depressed, and obsessive compulsive disorder, where the content of the obsessions are depressing in some way. So that's another thing that we say,
that's also so vital. Just because you're having these depressive thoughts and you might have all the symptoms of depression, like you just don't feel like working, you don't feel like eating, doesn't mean that's diagnosed as a clinical depression. Okay? I might have a lot of the symptoms and a lot of the thought processes with it, but that does not mean it is a diagnosable clinical depression. Far from it. Okay? That's another thing that people fear. Okay? Having an anxiety disorder in itself is depression. But depressing, that doesn't mean you have depression. Okay? Anyone that's probably on here, did you just feel depressed, then go in to have panic attacks? No, you didn't. You felt anxious, then had panic attacks, then start feeling depressed. Because look the way your life is. Okay? So it's a lot of these types of themes, okay, that can get, if you don't have the correct knowledge and not listen to the correct people like these as well, you read all the stuff online from people that are actually clinically depressed, actually have schizophrenia, actually have bipolar disorder and panic attacks and anxiety on top of that. But yeah, you're just reading their panic attack and anxiety story about how they, I don't know, maybe you've read a story that they went into a psychosis or something, because they have an actual mental illness that can actually put them onto that scale of mental health. You don't. So just be careful what you read online, okay? Because you're reading some really, God bless them, people that are really, really mentally ill. Lord bless them, Lucky for you guys, you all have anxiety disorders, panic attacks, excruciating fear that have led to agoraphobia, to stop living your life because of these certain fears that run rampant for years and create these compulsions in your life, that you're having a parent there and a sister here and you can't go here at this time and you're afraid of the sun, or you can only work better in the sun. You can go up north 10 minutes but you can't go down 2 minutes. You have to sleep in your clothes or not wear tight clothes, or you can look at all that for years. Of course that's going to make you feel depressed, but it doesn't mean you're depressed, because if you take away your anxiety, take away your panic attacks, and take away your agoraphobia, none of you here would be feeling 1% of depression. You'll be actually probably the most happiest people in the world. people that have clinical depression, okay, and other mental health disorders on top of that, the schizophrenia, the bipolars, with that. You take away all their anxiety, all their panic, or their agoraphobic behaviors, they'll still be depressed, and they'll still have their unfortunate mental health illness. You guys won't. You defeat your fear, you defeat your agoraphobia, you defeat all this, all the compulsions drop off, you're free to go. Luckily for you.
An intrusive thought. I think you made a really good point. We made a special effort to start the book with very specific examples of different types of intrusive thoughts, because we wanted people to see the nitty-gritty of that. By the way, some people find that too triggering and they can't continue on the book, but I think that it's still you found.
She pointed at herself, and that was like me as well. Like, I got to start, I couldn't read it. Then I was like, when I went to see a really good clinical psychologist, like CBT, and she explained what these are explaining, but just these explained a lot better. But she just took the weight off my shoulders. She says, Glenn, literally, I work in mental health for 25 years. My dad, look across there, Highfield Health Centre in Dublin, it's called. It's a mental health institution. He says, Glenn, I work over there. My CBT practice is here on the side. Within 2 minutes of talking to you, I know you don't have borderline personality disorder. I know you don't have schizophrenia. I know, I can tell within 60 seconds to 2 minutes. I know you don't have that. You're obsessed about it. And that's the obsession with these disorders. And she just laid it out all the table, and she laid out all these intrusive thoughts. And when I first heard it, like, it was a little bit triggering, but then I was like so at ease with it and so happy to like know that, so they don't mean anything. And then that's what he did at the start of the book. When you read it, he outlines the horrible intrusive thoughts of, what if I do harm to myself, or what if I did something to my kids, or you have to normalize that. You have to. Maybe it might be a little bit triggering for some. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay to feel a little bit triggered. These are the best in the business, these people.
In the beginning, I found it really triggering.
Yeah. Okay.
And and now I'm in a very different place for sure.
But in a sense, it's again, let's talk about the courage that people need in order to overcome this. I mean, it really means taking a chance. It's a leap of faith in some way that somehow the approach that's being presented by people who wrote this book is going to be helpful, when in fact it's completely opposite to the way that I've been trying to deal with it in the past in some way.
Right.
But we did want people to know the nitty-gritty, where really good people can have terrible, terrible, terrible thoughts in some way, and to understand that sense. But to go to take it just one step further, an unwanted intrusive thought is not defined by its content. Okay, and that's an essential thing. It's really defined by how it feels terrible, and how it acts. It repeats. It repeats. Yeah. It gets stuck. So that's the way we define an unwanted intrusive thought.
Yeah. Another thing about how it acts is that what is maintaining and the repetition of the thought is the struggle against the thought.
Yep.
So the thought has a relationship with whatever you're trying to do to make it go away. And that can be something like a behavioral compulsion, tap 3 times and turn around, maybe the thought will go away. Or it can be a mental compulsion. Maybe you'll say a certain word several times, or you'll try to reassure yourself that it's not true, or some other kind of effort that you're making to try to get rid of the thought and get rid of the feelings that come with the thought. And that relationship between the thought, which is called an obsession, and the thing you're doing to try and make it go away, that's called a compulsion.
Yeah.
And for many people, they just call it obsessing or worrying.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get better, you got to parse that out and figure out some of it makes you feel anxious, some of it temporarily makes you feel better, and it goes round and round and round.
Yeah. Okay. So that's such a beautiful.
Do you understand the cycle? What she just said there? The cycle of these, and she labeled it as if like that's why I wanted you guys to understand about. Yeah, they talk a lot about OCD. I'm talking about the compulsion. I'm talking about the obsessiveness of a thought or a feeling that leads to a compulsion, which is a behavior that then continues on down the spiral, making you feel miserable, gives you temporarily relief. It works. And I bring you back to my compulsions. I'm having a panic attack and I'm thinking I'm gonna die and I'm thinking I'm gonna lose my mind and go crazy. I leave, sorry, excuse me. I leave, which is I engage in the compulsion. I leave to go over to my safe place. That's the compulsion. I leave to do it and go over to seek medical help to the fire brigade station. Sometimes I don't even knock in, sometimes I did. When I get there, my brain calms down because I know if anything happened to me, I can just knock in or they'll see me. Then the adrenaline slowed down, my thoughts slowed down, and I went back home. It gave me temporary relief, a false sense of comfort, and I loved it. It was the only way I felt calm. It was the only thing that made me feel calm. So the next day it happens again. What am I going to do? I'm going to engage in that again and again and again. Another one was when I started to have the mental side of what if I'm developing a mental illness? What if I'm developing schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or borderline personality disorder? I'm lying in bed and then here comes the thought again. What if I... Okay, on to Google. So I had the thought. Okay. Now I'm starting to, I have the obsession, the obsession. Now I'm going to engage in the C, which is the compulsion. The compulsion was I'm going online and I'm Googling tests. I'm taking, do I have bipolar tests? And I'm taking these fucking 50 questions. No, 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 no. Maybe, yes, maybe, a little bit, a little bit. Oh, you scored 2%. You don't have it. That still wasn't enough. I had to go find another one and another one and another one. And then I realized I'm exhausted and now it's time to sleep. And then the next night that comes again and again. And I keep engaging in the compulsion of Googling, 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 taking these tests, taking these tests, taking these tests. Because it was hitting the dopamine center. I say, see, Glenn, you don't have it. But it never cured the problem because I never done the correct process. Like, okay, I'm going to go crazy. Okay, it is what it is. It is what it is. Terrified, but I'm not. Well, let's go back to maybe the heart attack and the ambulance. Oh, Glenn, I might have a heart attack after 10 years. Okay, have one then. I'm not ringing an ambulance. I'm not. I don't care what happens to me. I'm not ringing an ambulance. Oh my God. My brain was ring it, ring it, ring it, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, ring it, ring it, ring it. It's like withdrawing from drugs. Ring it, ring it, ring it, ring it. Go up to your mom, do something. No, no, I'm not doing anything. And it's so hard, and it's so hard, and it's so hard, but not giving into the compulsion over time. Oh my God, what a relief. But it's so hard not to give into that compulsion. And you don't have to do it perfectly every time. You can lessen it bit by bit. Okay, which she will touch on in this. But can you see how it all clicks? How it all gathers this momentum as a big, huge domino effect and starts to really burn you out mentally.
introduction to the concept of the three minds that you talk about in your book, which I laughed so hard when I was learning about the false comfort mind. I'm like, I have a very strong false comfort mind. So Dr. Seif, would you start us off by talking about that, the way that you talk about it in your books, of the worried mind, the false comfort mind, and then the wise mind? Because for me, even, I was like, I think everyone should just be familiar with that, regardless of what they might be challenged with or struggling with, because it was just such a powerful visualization. But the false comfort mind was like, yep, I see what she's doing.
Well, actually, we had a lot of fun with that when we were trying to write it and trying to figure out what to call the names. But it started with the fact that we wanted to find a very explicit way of illustrating the conversations, the dialogue, the narrative that goes on in people's minds in some way. It really followed from the idea when we realized that really most of obsessive compulsive disorder is purely mental and purely cognitive and goes on within people's mind. And that's why we consider it to be, why people start to realize that it's far more common than professionals had assumed prior to that. So we wanted to make this internal conversation very, very explicit. And we decided we would just sort of take various characters and have them play out the interplay that goes on between people's minds. Now, one of them is worried voice, which we originally wanted to call it. That's the obsession.
So guys, if you can understand this, they're talking about worried mind, false comfort, and the wise mind. Okay? What is Ailey? What is the worried mind? We're going to talk about this in anxiety and panic attack and agoraphobia related disorders. What is the worried voice? It usually comes first.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. For the worried mind, yeah.
What description could you put on that in terms of anxiety disorder and panic? What's the worried mind?
Constantly sort of on edge, thinking about everything all the time, brain sort of on high alert. Yeah, sort of looking for danger everywhere, what ifs.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
We'll even stop there. That's perfect. Now we move on to, in anxiety terms again, what is false comfort? Ailey, for you, because you answered the first question correct. Now you answered the worried mind, perfect. It's the worries, it's the thoughts, the scared of symptoms, the scared of the thoughts, all the worries, all the checking. Now, what's the false comfort in anxiety disorders?
Googling, trying to get a reassurance from things that aren't giving in to the sort of the thoughts, the compulsions, seeking like safety people, ringing wherever you think, going for that support that you think you need, that safety person to come back, or you need to get reassurance for that symptom, or you need to check your heart rate, or to get
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's a growing list, but again, 10 out of 10, perfect daily.
Growing list.
That's the false comfort. Now, will that ever cure you?
No.
What will it do?
Show your brain that sort of, I guess it feeds back to your brain that you need to keep doing that to get that false reassurance, rather than so it just feeds the cycle.
Yeah, it feeds the cycle, exactly. It works and it helps in the moment, but you never truly learn that you don't need that, because the false comfort is the one that actually keeps you stuck, because you never challenge it. You never go see what's on the opposite side. You always seek the false comfort. Let me call my mom. Let me take the medication. Let me let me Google that. Let me make the call. Let me put cold water on my face. Let me bring my mom in the car with me. Let me do it. That's the false comfort, and it works because when we do all those things, the anxiety doesn't reach a 10, doesn't reach a high level. So we continue on with this wishful thinking of that's okay. It will get better one day. And then we have the wise mind. What is the wise mind? Haley.
I don't know because I don't have one. Probably,
Good answer. I was going to say it.
um, probably where the things that you tell us we need to be doing. So putting ourselves in those situations, exposing ourselves in the right way to the panic, and doing it in the right way. To reinforce to the
Exactly.
brain that we're safe. So putting ourselves in those situations, and doing it the right way.
Perfect. Excellent. And perfectly summarized. Again, I tell you, you're all experts, don't I? Just got to do the work. Very, very hard work. So the wise mind is the wise mind is your rational brain. So when you engage in the false comfort, bring your mom over to watch the kids because you're having a bad day with a panic attack. Me going over to the fire brigade station to stop a panic attack, and then it stops, then I go home. And then the wise mind kicks in. Why did I didn't have to do that again. I'm not in danger. But I had to do it just in case. Because like I've had this for 10 years. So what if this time was the one, even 10 years later? The brain doesn't you're dealing with the most primitive part of the brain. It doesn't allow you to rationalize that. You have to behave yourself out with it. So I had to stop that behavior. I couldn't stop the thought. I had to stop it with a behavior. In essence, I had to stop doing the behavior to then rationalize my mind. Because the prefrontal cortex, which is your rational mind, is now it's second in command now. Mine right now, because I'm healed, it's in command. My amygdala is second in charge. That comes up when it's time to come up. For most of you guys, your amygdala is in full control. Okay, always. Even in my mind right now, where my prefrontal cortex and my rational mind is the most dominant part of my mind now. If my brain triggers danger or anything, something or bad news, whatever, my amygdala can override my irrational thinking can override that in a split second because that's the way it's supposed to work. Okay, it's primitive. It's supposed to overpower your rational mind. Imagine standing in front of the road and you hear this fucking car coming towards you. You're in the middle of the road. It's dark out at night. You hear, oh, it's getting closer. Are you going to just think, let me stand here because I think this might stop in front of me? No. Immediately saying, I don't get me the fuck off this road. Okay? It's natural. You don't just wait and think this car might slow down. And obviously the senior would slow down, whatever, but it's just an understanding of how that part of the brain works. Okay? And you have literally triggered that every day of your life, multiple times per day. So that is now your new norm. And that's why it's so hard to overcome anxiety disorders at the start, because you're trying to avoid or you're trying to overcome so much. Okay? So it's really hard at the start. So the worried mind is your anxiety, your intrusive thoughts, your fears, your anxieties. Then you engage in the false comfort, which is the compulsions that make you feel good in the moment. Oh, I'm glad that my mom's over now, or my husband's gone on holiday, so let me bring everyone over. Or actually, you know what the best thing might do? Let me because I'm not ready yet. Let me pretend I'm really fucking sick. I'll make up a big lie just so my husband and my mother don't go on the holiday. And that works. And we feel that when they say, okay, I won't go. I won't go. Maybe It's fine. I know you're feeling unwell. We're not going to go this time. We're going to wait another 3 months. Oh my God, the relief that brings with people. Or when it's someone's wedding and you have to go and there's no way out of it. And they get divorced the day before. Oh, thank God I have to go to this wedding. It's great. Not for the couple, but you know what I mean. And then the wise mind, that's after all the panic has settled down and you've stopped the Googling and you stopped going to the fire brigade station and you've got your heart checked from the hospital and you're home lying in bed and you think, the fuck was all that for?
That's the part that triggers anxiety. Originally, we wanted it to be called something with an O. I remember that originally.
Oliver. No, Oscar. It was Oscar.
Yeah. Oh, Oscar. Kind of like Oscar the Grouch.
Well, no, but and then there's something that answers that, which is false comfort, and people can recognize this in some way. And we wanted to use the term false comfort because the comfort it provides is temporary and essentially reinforces the next worried voice question. And this dialogue goes on. And then we wanted to introduce the fact that people, if they pay attention to themselves and center themselves, we all have some sort of common sense. We called it wise mind that says, wait a second, this is being ridiculous. We're looking for absolute certainty. We're asking questions, whatever it is in some way, and some way of grounding in some way. And we spent a good time going through these conversations that we hope people, internal conversations that we hope people could connect with. Apparently you did. Apparently it made sense to you. Yeah.
It literally, I mean, I felt so seen and not crazy because I was like, what is it, because the other component of it is that, what do they call it? Ego dystonic, of like, for my experience I have lived with this my whole life, right? And it has manifested in lots of different ways, whether it's about health, up until recently, it was about pregnancy, fear of pregnancy, even when it was irrational. And the ways that I realized that I was like trying to reassure my compulsions, like thinking about like with my health was, I need to figure out where I got this from. I need to figure out like, or if I was really tired, the joke in our house was always like, why do you think I'm so tired? And it was the ambiguous, why? And like, and my husband so beautifully would be like, I mean, you're just tired. Like you don't need a reason. I was like, no, but am I getting sick? And then that would become the obsession. And, and there've been some other manifestations, that I'm not quite ready to, talk about and share yet, but like, that false comfort was seeing it played out. I was just like, I was laughing at one point. I was like, holy shit, this is my brain. Like they see directly into my brain of the conversations.
We were talking about you when we wrote this. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. I figured. I was like, they're like, she doesn't even know that she has this yet. Okay. Yeah. So one concept that I think that was so powerful was this idea of thought action fusion. And I want to read, if I may, like a section from Needing to Know for Sure. And you wrote that there are 4 main perceptual changes characteristics of anxious thinking. 1, that no risk feels reasonable. The thought and action feel fused together. That's the one I want to talk about. Worry thoughts become sticky and the world is viewed as dangerous. And then you go on to say, anxious thinking makes the consequences of something you fear feel so significant that the probability of that happening feels irrelevant. It was so powerful. And that idea of thought fusion was such a gift because what I've experienced, and I know other people experience, is that there's some part of your brain, and I know logically it's not real, but there's some part of your brain that's like, because I've had this thought, it feels as if I'm acting out on it, which is so, if one of you wouldn't mind talking about thought action fusion, because that was a brand new concept for me. And it really opened my eyes to a lot.
It's really an altered state of consciousness. When you're sticky and you're anxious, your mind works a little differently.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've always said, I guess everybody's always known, that anxious people have great imaginations, right? And what happens when you're anxious and you have this sort of imaginary catastrophic story that you build in your head that is anticipatory of some terrible thing that's going to happen, that because you are anxious, it becomes incredibly vivid, and it's accompanied by body sensations of fear. And then it feels, somehow you make the mistake of treating that as if it's a fact, as if it's true, as if it's something you have to now respond to or do something about. It's like going to a horror movie, the Chainsaw Massacre movie, and sitting in the movie theater and then forgetting that it's a movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that completely resonates for me.
I think that there were, as you were talking, Sally, there were actually a number of things that were going through my mind. I think part of it is the fact that Sally.
As if it's true, as if it's something.
As you can see, guys, these people know their shit. They're really top level. Are you guys? And as I said, guys, this has gotten better as time has gone on. Okay. The start, you have to be. The introduction is slow. Then you hit those golden nuggets of wisdom. Ailey, so far, are you getting anything from this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you all.
I think it's really interesting.
It's not finished yet. We're halfway through, and we won't have enough time, I don't think. No, but we'll get another couple of minutes done. And then I'm going to do a poll. I thought this would have been done by night one. I'm going to get a poll done for next week to see if you want to do this again. But it's possible that we might have another recovery story coming on next week. Okay, we're supposed to be this week, but it might be next week. I'll have to see with that. But I'll do a poll about doing a part 2 of this and recovering it again. Okay, because it's very important to understand these compulsions. That's okay. Okay, that take the fear out of them. Because a lot of this is so fear-based and scary sometimes and lonely and depressing sometimes. It's like, let's take that out. Let's take that out. And that's what I wanted from this. So let's continue on for another couple of minutes. And let me see what time we're at. I will have to do a part 2. I think it's right to do a part 2. So last week we did nearly 2 hours, and now we're in for an hour and a half. Okay, so we do another couple of minutes, and then we'll see each other off, have a little chat at the end, and we'll see where we're going, because there's a lot still in this. It's only halfway through. Now you can go off to YouTube and look at it yourself. Okay? But I like to stop it at bits, because I know you guys very well. At least a lot. So I know where to stop for some individual. Okay? And I also know that what they're talking about, yeah, it's fantastic. But I like to specifically speak about it in agoraphobic terms, panic attack terms, and base it off that rather than just obsessive compulsive disorder, which these do tap into as well. They do a great job. Brilliant.
You have to now
of anxious thinking, because it's so profoundly different from the way we feel when we're feeling comfortable and when you're really caught up in it.
Yeah.
You really are in an alternate state of reality. So we were playing around with the idea of, I don't think anxious consciousness. It's nothing really. The world feels different at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure really what causes it, but it's profound. It feels real, and it's an act of faith to say, wait a second. At some point, I'm not going to be feeling this way. It's a leap of faith to do that in some way.
And it's another thing also to remember that there was a time before that thought occurred to you in which this entire issue was completely irrelevant and not urgent and not doing anything. And what's the matter? Were you being...
That's recovery summed up, guys. Me, I used to be, if you mention a psychiatric ward, or if I watched the movie on it, or if you mentioned, if I seen someone on a movie having a heart attack or something, that would freak me out. Say all that stuff now, it's healing, it's gone, it's nothing. I know the truth. Okay, so that's all coming to you guys too. Not yet. In time.
Reckless and ridiculous then that you didn't know about it?
Yeah.
Or was that really you're operating the way everybody else does, with a certain amount of uncertainty that you don't care about?
You used a term I just want to get back to. It's stuck in my own mind. You said I have these irrational fears. Don't like to use the term irrational in a sense, because when you're in this altered state of consciousness, they seem perfectly rational.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
So if you can follow the internal dialogue that you're having, or as a therapist, if you can kind of communicate with the person that you're seeing and sort of point out the internal dialogue, it makes sense based on that in some way. The problem is the original assumption is wrong in terms of that, but it follows that entirely in some way. And since no risk feels reasonable, and you have to avoid all risk, and you're looking for absolute certainty, you're sort of doomed from the start in some way. That's one of the things.
No, I appreciate you pushing back.
Because we have to stop there for an hour and a half. Anyway, guys, this is all recorded. All recorded for you guys. Oh. This is where the hell am I going to? Where the hell am I tonight? Okay. So that's all recorded for you guys. The recording with Laura still has it's done already, just have to post it in, and this one too. So I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. There's a lot in that still has to be, we have to do work on. It's important. Okay, so I'm going to do a poll, and guys, if this doesn't agree with one or two people, let me know. Okay, let me know, because we're going to focus on it, the exact same thing, part 2 next week. Okay, so if it's not, no problem. And if you want to come on next week and just be there for people, or else I can send you off on a little mission to do a exposure therapy while others are just listening, just for this time. You go off and do something, and because maybe this just isn't for one or two people. That's okay. So let's communicate that also. Okay, and for those that have listened and it isn't for them, thank you. This is very important for a lot of people at the moment. Okay, so it's not important for you. I appreciate, and we all do as a community. Okay, and if it's not for you again, I will give you like something else to do next week, where you go off and do an exposure, maybe do something in the night time at a different time. But I'll engage with you guys in the chat with what we need to do next. So I'm just going to stop this. We'll stop.